Are you somebody that is getting back into running after a long time off? Or maybe you're somebody that just really has been walking, but you want to start incorporating running into the equation. If so, this video is for you. Hey, I'm Dr. Ian Putney from Wellington Family Chiropractic, and as you can see outside, it is fall. The leaves are turning, the weather is perfect, so I'm outside my office right next door to our run walk trail, and that's what I want to talk about today. This video is going to be all about how to get into running without injuring yourself, or at least trying to prevent that in the process. A lot of times my patients, as they begin to start to incorporate running, they might do a little bit too quickly, and then they end up stopping altogether. So I like to give them some advice, and we typically plan with them in a way to incrementally add more and more running in and hopefully prevent some injury. So the program I'm going to talk about is an 8-week program. And the reason why I like to program it for 8 weeks is it's a big window of time. You're not trying to do too much too quick. And the other thing is, if you plan it out, you're more likely to do it. So I know a lot of people know they should be running, or they know that they could incorporate some running, but at the end of the day, they're just not doing it because they haven't planned it and then decided to actually do it. So the first thing you've got to do is schedule it, have some accountability with yourself or someone else, and then start to do it. And so for the first 2 weeks of the 8 weeks, you're just 5 days a week, you're going to walk 30 minutes. And I know this is a running plan, and we're starting with 2 weeks of walking, but this does a couple things. It gets that 30-minute time slot into your schedule. We're all busy. We all don't have that much time. And you got to get used to having that spot in your daily schedule throughout the week where you're exercising. So if that's not there, you need to add it in, get used to it, and get into that rhythm of working out. The second thing it does is it helps prepare your feet, your legs, your lower, your calves, your lower extremities, your joints, and your muscles and your tendons for running. Sometimes if you're not doing much at all and then you go out and stress them too much, you end up injured. And this allows those areas to start to get used to that repetitive training and builds up some strength in those areas. So at the end of the 2 weeks, within those 2 weeks, what you can do is just walk at a normal pace and then slowly increase the pace at which you're walking, make it more brisk towards the end of those 2 weeks. At the third week, what we're going to do is start to incorporate the running or the jogging. So what you're going to do is a run-walk method where you simply start out with a ratio of timed running. And so usually you want to start with about 30 seconds of running and then 1 to 2 minutes of walking. And over the 6 weeks you have left, you want to flip that ratio to where you're resting less and running more. So if week 1 you're running for 30 seconds and walking for a minute and a half to recover, that's about a 2.5 to 1 ratio. What you could do week 2 or progress through week 1 is try to run for 45 seconds and only walk for a minute 15. And then you try to run for a minute maybe the following week and only rest for a week until that ratio of running versus resting flips and you're in a 2 to 1 situation, ideally within the first few weeks. So maybe you can run for 2 minutes and then you have to walk for 1 minute to recover, run for 2 minutes, and you do that for that 30-minute period with the goal of getting to a point where you're running about 6 minutes and resting 1 minute. So if you can get to where you can recover within that 1 minute, you can begin to go 2 minutes of running, 2.5 minutes of running, 1 minute of walking. I think you can usually stretch that out to 4 or 5 minutes a lot of times and keep that walking window around a minute to a minute and a half to fully recover. And so basically you're just flipping that ratio of rest versus running to where you're running more and resting a little bit. And at the end of the 8 weeks, you should be able to run, a good amount of distance before you need that minute break. And over those 30 minutes, or maybe you're now doing it 45 minutes, 5 days a week, you're running a longer distance overall. And at the end of those 8 weeks, at that point, you're going to be able to run a good chunk of time and not need a break. So I tell people at that point, start, thinking about how far you actually want to run. Maybe you should sign up for a 5K, and maybe you might have to walk it, but start setting your distances if that's something you want to get into. So again, it's a run-walk method. It's really easy to do. I think it's good. A couple side notes. One, I like the idea of timing it versus just going, I'm going to run as far as I can and then I'll rest. I'm going to run as far as I can and then I'm going to rest. The reason why I don't like that is we mentally tend to cop out. So if you got 30 seconds on your timer and you know you got to stick to it, it's almost like somebody there telling you not to stop. I think that helps. The other quick thing that people make a mistake with is they grab the old shoes out of the garage and they just assume those shoes are going to be fine. Typically, I tell people they really need to go invest in some good shoes if they're going to pick up a running program. The last 2 shoes I bought are at Fleet Feet here in Lexington. We've got some really good other options, but you typically want to go get fitted for a pair of running shoes if you're going to start running. So hopefully this helps. I think it's an easy way to get into it. It can help a lot of people. If you're one of those people that's walking or maybe getting back into walking, you've always thought you just couldn't run because you always end up sore, this is how you do it. I hope it helps, and I'll talk to you soon.